and we will get going here in a second. Hello, hello. So nice to see you guys. We're going to be doing a Fertility Friday today, Fertility Friday Q&A. So I've got a couple questions you guys sent in over the last couple of days, and we'll get started with those. But as you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the comments. If your question ends up being a little bit too complicated for me to answer, I will invite you to send those through the DM as well. Hello, how's it going? Where is everybody from? Hey, Dawn. Awesome to see you. Hey, Marie. Okay, so I have two questions that I picked out from all the ones that were sent in. Some were too complicated. Sometimes I need to be able to ask you questions back in order to help you the best that I can. So the first question, and this is such a good one, I think I'll be doing a separate video on this topic by itself, but the first question was, why do I spot before my period, and then sometimes after my period is over, why am I spotting? So when it comes to spotting, that's one of the things that I look for that helps to show me what's happening with hormones. So if there's spotting that's happening, that's generally something is low. So when they're spotting before the period, that could mean low progesterone. Now, with that information, I don't want you running and saying, oh, I have low progesterone. What are all the things I do for that? Again, you need to understand that progesterone levels are an end of a series of events. So there's a lot of different reasons someone may not have, or someone may have low progesterone, but that is what I look at, is some type of low hormones. When it's happening towards the end of a period, you could look at low estrogen levels. You could also look at helping increase the circulation. There's a lot of different reasons that spotting could be happening. So best response to that is there would be a series of questions I would ask you to follow up with that to find out what the spotting would be about. But that's one of the many things I actually look at as feedback from the body to know where your hormonal health is and where to focus and to help support that. The next question is going to be tips for scanty periods. Again, I think this is going to be a whole other video that I do, because great question. I get this question a lot. So scanty periods are going to be when there is not enough, there happens to be a depletion somehow, somewhere, in the body. So I approach that using the 5 pillars. With a scanty period, what we're wanting is the results we're wanting from the actions we take is for a period to go from just spotting, maybe one day that's got flow and you're only doing 2 changes of pads. The menstrual color is very, very light and faint. What we want to do is we want to help build up the system. We want to help to build up uterine lining. We want to help to build up the hormone levels. So scanty periods to me mean just depletion in the body and low hormone production. So there's other questions I would ask about other parts of your cycle to kind of see what the hormonal profile is. But then I would also go about helping to build up hormonal production and helping to focus on the whole cycle. Because if that's happening, then uterine lining may be thin. That's another sign of thin uterine lining, possibly. So we want to build up that uterine lining. We do that through nutrition. We do that through hormonal support, through use herbs, essential oils, diet. We'd want to look to make sure that someone's eating enough essential fatty acids, proteins, all of those different things. And then the evidence you're looking for that the changes and you're moving in the right direction is that period would slowly build up. Also, anemia is another thing. So there's just a lot of different things. But what's awesome is you guys are writing me and you're saying, this is what my body's telling me. And you're like, what does this mean? So now it's just finding out what that means and what happens within the body so that that's what's occurring. But I love that you're paying attention to what's going on, because a lot of the things we think that are just normal and we've lived with forever are signs from our body that are telling us so much. Hello. Hey, Ella in New York. Nice to see you. Hey, Miss Sun. You're always here. All right. So lots of questions coming in. Awesome. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the comments. Which herbs to help support the pituitary gland? I need to do my consultation soon. Hello, the Shack. Okay, so when it comes to pituitary, so whenever I'm working on, okay, so pituitary is a specific gland, right? But it's part of a whole system that's going to be part of the endocrine system. So generally, when I'm trying to support one gland, like say the pituitary or the thyroid or the adrenal, I actually like to support all of them, because they are all going to be communicating. They're all going to be part of this hormonal loop and this whole system that's happening. So I would look at it from also a nutritional standpoint. And then I would be looking at what is it that's telling you that your pituitary is needing support? What is happening and how is that manifesting? So I would need to know more information of how that manifests, instead of just like, I have this pituitary gland in my body. How am I supporting that? basis of that's always going to be nutrition. And then there's other supplements and things that can be helped to support that. But we need to understand why that is what we're going to be working on. I know that's not a very direct answer, is it? It is different for each person. So for me to get the best results, I'm always wanting to know, I need more information than like, here's what you do for the pituitary gland, because there's a lot of different reasons someone may say they need to support that. How does a 46-year-old get pregnant naturally? So I get this question like 20 times a day. Just fill in the blank with the age. So here's where we're at. When you're trying to get pregnant and someone, there's like, I'm over 40, that kind of thing. I always ask, 1, are you ovulating? 2, have you had your hormones tested? The reason I ask those first 2 things is because if your hormones come back and you're perfectly fine, you're still producing hormones, you have not started menopause, that whole thing, if you're still ovulating, those are the things that I'm looking for. Because a lot of times that's more where the trouble begins, is that someone has started menopause. We can't change that through herbs or natural therapies. We can't turn menopause backwards. So if those things are happening and they're generally pretty regular and that's all looking very good, then we're going to focus on egg health and we're going to do all the things that we can, that we have in our power to help support. There's no guarantees. There's no knowing who will and who won't get pregnant. I wish I had a crystal ball, but what we can do is anything that we have control over in nourishing our bodies, we can do. So we do those things, but you have to understand, if you've been living a certain lifestyle for a very long time and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to be pregnant 3 months from now because the next 3 months I'm eating healthy, but I've never eaten healthy my whole life or taken care of myself. It may take more time than that. So there has to be persistence. There has to be patience, and just knowing and being really consistent with those things so that you can give yourself the best chance that you have. The other note is these are also the same exact steps you would take. So say if you're like, if this doesn't work after a certain amount of time, I'm moving forward with this fertility treatment. It's the same steps you would take to prepare to help optimize that fertility treatment. So you're already on the good path. But there's things we have control over, like what we're putting in our bodies, what we're exposing ourselves to, and there's things we don't have control over. So just focusing on the things that we do have control over and giving yourself a plan and a way to make that happen and to be consistent with it. That's my answer for that. Is sea moss good for fertility health? I don't work with sea moss. I know that's like a Jamaican thing. So I'm not the person to ask, but I do find it really interesting. I love that they put it in smoothies. Spotting 2 weeks after my period, what causes this? So go ahead, China. At the beginning of this video, I actually went into that whole topic. So if you could watch the replay, you would get your answer. Shaq saying I have a tumor on pituitary gland. I'm not on any medication. See, so that's extremely specific. That would be, you probably need to be working with a practitioner for that, because that's different than someone having depletion in their body because they're stressed out all of the time. That's definitely an external factor that is a specialty. What supplements help control thyroid hormone? Let's see, how do I want to answer this? So the way that I approach this isn't that you take A, B, or C and it's going to replace your thyroid hormone. The way that I approach this is let's support your thyroid. Let's give it the nutrients it needs to function the best it can and make sure that your thyroid is being taken care of. So that it could be with staying on medications or not taking medications, either direction. But I do think it is helpful to continuously be monitored whatever direction you're choosing to go. I would never tell someone to get off of their thyroid medication, but just by taking thyroid medication, you're not addressing the root cause. So there might be something going on, especially if it's immunological, because there's a lot of other things happening. So it's a bigger topic than that, because there's 2 types of hypothyroidism, right? There's one that's immunologically based, where the body is essentially attacking the thyroid tissue. And then there's another where you're either not producing enough thyroid hormone or you're not absorbing it. So there's reasons for all of that. And we always start with the foundational steps, making sure diet's in place, you're getting enough minerals. There's a whole list of different things. So it's not just like, here's this awesome thyroid supplement, just take this, you're all set. My answers are never that easy or clear cut, because my goal is for you to not only have a healthy thyroid, but for that to be managed and maintained through pregnancy. Early pregnancy, you have to have your thyroid dialed in. So if someone's like actively trying to get pregnant and they're like, I want to do these foods and things for my thyroid, it takes time for change to happen like that. So if you're doing that in conjunction with taking your thyroid medication, Sometimes for people, that's a better call because we know if you do get pregnant, your levels are going to be at healthy levels for pregnancy, because it is a concern in early pregnancy for causes of miscarriage, to have your thyroid levels not be correct. So it might be a multiple step approach. Integrative medicine's always a really great thing. But again, integrative medicine's a great thing. So doing, thyroid medications if that's needed, but doing the foods, taking care of yourself so that you're helping to support your thyroid is going to be really important. A couple things to quickly be able to do that. You want to get rid of anything in your home that contains xenohormones. So these are going to be chemicals found in cleaners, skincare, fragrances, and candles that wreak havoc on the hormonal system. So that's like, get one of the causes out of your house. If it's immunological, that's going to be a whole nother thing. But helping to support the body to reduce inflammation would be a beginning step for that. But it's a big topic, but it's a really important one. This is something that I personally have been through. I had hypothyroidism, and not Hashimoto's, but just regular hypothyroid. How to control hair fall and PCOS and unwanted hair growth. So a lot of questions would come in order for me to answer that. Again, what's your diet like? Unwanted hair growth and hair falling out. So there's a couple different things happening here, right? Hair growth happening from excess testosterone possibly, and hair falling out. How's your thyroid? Is something happening with the thyroid, or are there nutritional deficiencies? What's happening there? So those would be a couple of questions that I would explore and deep dive into someone's diet, and see what they're doing and how we can track what they're eating to see what nutrients might be missing. Because believe it or not, even though most of us are living in countries where you can go to any grocery store at any time and get all of these foods, we still have nutritional deficiencies because of how the foods are grown and also eating a lot of processed foods. And that can have an effect on all of those systems. How to increase sperm count naturally. So Miss Peace. So there's a couple different steps. Men's fertility is really interesting. You can see my dog bowl. Men's fertility is really interesting because they have like 4 things going on, whereas women would have there's such a huge list of things that women can have going on. And so when it comes for men, there's a couple different things. We want to make sure that circulation is working really well. Something that happens a lot with men is they can have high blood pressure, they have high cholesterol. It's very common. That has a direct correlation to circulation to the reproductive system. That has a direct correlation to hormonal health and hormone production and testosterone production. That has a direct correlation to production of sperm. Also, nutritional deficiencies in minerals has a direct correlation to low sperm count. So if they're eating a crappy diet, a lot of processed foods, it's going to be void of minerals. It's going to be void of a lot of the nutrients that they need for sperm production. So diet's going to be important, increasing circulation, helping with the vascular health. That makes a big difference if someone is experiencing high blood pressure, getting to a healthy blood pressure. And a lot of that is done through diet and lifestyle changes. So there's definitely a lot of things that they can do, but it's a lifestyle. It's not just like one pill, even though those are involved and they're extremely helpful. There's a lifestyle change. And I think this is such a gateway to an amazing journey to health that's one way you could look at it and take it on that way. So if he's on board, you can go ahead and message me. I can help direct you guys in some good directions to get going. But it's not just one thing. Hello. Hey, Carrington. So hello from Birmingham, UK. I've been doing juicing since Sunday last week. Awesome. How are you feeling? I think my lining is thin, so I'm working on it with the 5 pillars. We'll be trying to get pregnant in spring. Awesome. So a couple of tips about uterine lining. I did a video, take a look for it. I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago about uterine lining and some specifics for that. So check that one out, but that's great. You're starting on the important 5. That is awesome. Is seasons good to take to support fertility? I don't know what that is, Thundercat, if you want to. Oh, CMOS. I don't know much about CMOS. I'm not the person to ask. You'd probably want to ask an island herbalist or Jamaican herbalist. I've heard some good things about CMOS. I would guess because of the essential fatty acids that are in it and the minerals. I know it's really great for like plumping up the skin and for collagen and hair and nails. So I don't know. You tell me. Do some research and let me know. I'm having beards and it's hard for A lady having beards to conceive, what can I do? So are you saying, so you're saying that you are growing facial hair? Yes. So generally when you start growing thick facial hair out of nowhere, this is something that's new, that's going to be hormonally related. So do some, if you can, getting some blood testing done. Also getting your blood sugar levels done could possibly be a good idea, because a lot of times women who are experiencing PCOS or insulin resistance will start growing hair like on their chin, really thick, dark hair, just areas that you normally wouldn't have thick hair as a woman. And looking at that and taking steps to balancing the insulin resistance, which has an effect on testosterone levels, is kind of the reason that that starts to happen. So that would be a place to start, is to really looking at, you could easily test your blood glucose levels. That's one way of kind of seeing where your blood is, and looking at your hormonal panel. If you're not able to do that, you could easily start taking steps and eating a diet that's supportive for supporting someone with PCOS towards hormonal health, and you would naturally see the changes over some time that way as well. And it's just a very healthy diet that's going to be focused on blood sugar balance. Is it normal that I have pain the first week of fertility massage? So what do you mean by pain? Is it, are you sore? What is the pain that you're talking about? So when you start doing fertility massage, you could possibly be minorly sore, but you shouldn't be very much. If you are, don't do it so deep. It should just be like, kind of like when you start working out, you know, kind of that feeling of soreness. But if you are feeling actual pain, then you should stop it and go much lighter, but their pain should not be involved. It should be very relaxing. Would a 3-day period be a sign of lacking some hormone? It depends on what the rest of your cycle is like and what those 3 days of your cycle is like. Everyone's going to have different lengths of periods. So just because your period's 3 days or 5 days, you know, that's not necessarily like, oh, we need to do all these things. But what is the period like during that time? Is it very scanty? Are you spotting for 2 of those days and you have 1 day that's a true period? Then that's something in my mind would be like, okay, there's some lack here. Let's help build up the system. Please suggest some foods to regulate ovulation, improve egg health. So I did a whole class on this I can't talk. I did a whole class on this Wednesday. So go ahead and DM me for the link. I can send that to you. I go into great detail on all of that. And it's not just like one food. So I can't be like, ooh, eat celery. But I go into great detail on how to do that and why the foods that I'm talking about in that class, the science behind that. Do I think that sleep affects fertility hormones? If so, is there a specific time that sleep is most beneficial? I think the sleep. Yes. So sleep can definitely affect fertility hormones. There's a lot of different ways. So if you're having high cortisol from stress, from constant chronic, excuse me, I always eat this huge smoothie right before I talk. So that I burp. If you're having chronic stress for long periods of time and you're having sleep problems because your cortisol levels are high, that also in turn could affect other hormones and hormonal levels. So is the lack of sleep because of stress? If so, I always think everyone should have something in their toolbox that's addressing stress on a daily, weekly basis. I personally use meditation daily, and I use essential oils all day long. And I use oil tapping. There's a lot of things I use for sleep or for stress. So it's kind of like, okay, yes, you're not sleeping well, but what's it caused from, right? For a lot of people, it's because their cortisol is too high. If you're not getting good sleep, it can affect ovulation. There's been some studies that have shown that. It can also affect the different hormones that are involved with hunger and with feeling satiated. So then there could be weight gain. There's a lot of different things that affects. So sleep is major when it comes to overall health. The specific amount of sleep that someone needs is going to actually be different for each person. I need 8 to 9 hours. But I know as we get older, we need less sleep for some reason. But I can't say, oh, you must have 7 hours to ovulate. I don't know. There's no rule that I know of that's like that. But just getting restorative sleep, I know is beneficial. But I don't go over all this stuff because I don't want you guys freaking out about every little thing. You're like, is my uterine lining growing? Is it healthy enough? Am I getting enough sleep? Oh no, I'm drinking some water out of plastic. Will I be okay? Like, I don't want you guys to be nutcases. So I don't go into every single detail, but so many things do have an effect on hormonal health. Can you take barbarian for a long period of time? It depends on what the source is. If you're getting it from golden seal, no, that can be very strong. Whereas it coming from, what's it called? Oregon grape root is a little bit gentler source, but still those ones I generally don't do for long periods of time. Maybe do them for a month. If they're in a blend, you can maybe do them longer, but it just depends the source. That's just kind of too vague of a question. So if it's like one of 8 herbs in a formula, that's one thing compared to it being like a strong supplement on its own or strong, herb on its own. How to improve chances of getting pregnant with unexplained infertility. So unexplained infertility is like, so there's 4 main things that I get asked about every single day: endometriosis, PCOS, unexplained infertility, and getting pregnant over 40. So the way that I approach unexplained infertility is, okay, so you've gotten all the tests done, right? And they're like, everything looks fine. And you're kind of hoping they would actually say something was going on, so you had an area to focus on. So it can be very frustrating. But there's 2 things you need to, I'm always into these lists, this numbered list. There's 2 things that you need to be aware of. One, our tests are where they're at right now with the level of technology and science and understanding that we have, right? The test 10 years from now, we're going to be laughing at the tests we're doing right now, the level of testing and the feedback. So just because it's not coming back, nothing comes back on a test, doesn't mean that there's not something happening. I'm not saying that to you to freak you out and be like, there's something wrong. I'm just saying that just because the test doesn't catch something doesn't mean there isn't something. So if you've been trying for a period of time, like you've been trying 3 years, but your tests come back fine, there's still so many things we can work on. So I go at that with a 5-pillar approach so that we make sure every different area of health is being covered. So that little thing that it might be, that little nutritional deficiency, or that increased oxygenated blood, or supporting the egg health, or whatever it is, every box is being checked so that whatever it is, even though we can't find it in a test, is being addressed. Now, the amount of women that I talk to, and I love you guys, the amount of women I talk to whose partners have not had a sperm test because they don't feel like it, my phone just died, is crazy. So we all need to get sperm tests. If you have unexplained infertility and that whole thing is happening, that has to be part of the protocol. And I know a lot of you do, but that's another part that's just ends up being really frustrating. I'm like, the test is so easy. You don't even have to get like a vaginal ultrasound. So anyways, that's my rant for the day. All right. Well, I hope you guys found this helpful. If your question did not get answered, feel free to reach out through whatever channel that you're on, and we can help to get you some resources to get you going. If you'd like to, you can follow me on Instagram at Natural Fertility Info, YouTube, Natural Fertility Info, Facebook, Natural Fertility Info. I also do have a private group on there called Your Fertility with Heather, Your Natural Fertility with Heather Rodriguez. You can go ahead and join that private community. naturalfertilityinfo.com and naturalfertilityshop.com. So I hope you guys have a fabulous day, and I will see you again next week. Bye.